Hello everyone and welcome to zankcast, where we talk about Beyblade topics. I am joined here by my co-host Nizuma.
Yo, thanks for having me.
And for this topic, we are going to go to war to the Beyblade X fans because, we have been critical in some aspects of it. I've done a community tab post asking people for their thoughts and opinions so far. I've actually done, notes and everything. I reread through the manga. So the purpose of this video is just giving your thoughts, getting your criticism so far for the first half of Beyblade X, since manga's got like a couple more, 7, 8 chapters, and the anime, when I say halfway, it's because I think the anime should be ending October-ish, whatever. So I think it's fine just to start it here because I don't think really much is going to change by one episode difference if I did it first Sunday of March. So what I thought we would kind of do here is we'll first go over the animation, the manga, then the animation, then we'll give our pros and cons. Then we'll dissect any of the comments for what people think so far. The most important thing to address for both of these aspects is, for starters, for the manga-wise, for issues of pacing, part of that you can maybe fault some writing aspect if they make certain choices, but there is restrictions on Koro pages, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be fair in there and say, well, we acknowledge that there are these specific restrictions that stop them maybe from pacing it better, or maybe it feels really like some shitty advertisement. And as far as the animation goes, the animation was rushed by Takara Tomy. They specifically wanted to launch the Beyblade anime in October as parts 2 aims for a hit show of the New Year period. So blah, 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 blah. What does this mean? It essentially means, okay, we want to get this anime out at this time frame so the holiday sales go up and the New Year stuff. I think it was personally a very stupid choice. Now, whether the factors are who said yes to accepting the job, who's working on the team right now, is there barely anyone working on it? Obviously, fault has to go to Takara Tomy for picking such an early time. And keep in mind, if we are criticizing, the manga or the animation, we're criticizing the choices done, right? It doesn't mean, oh, these are bad people working on it, oh, these are terrible, whatever. It's important we get this out of the way, because I don't want anything misconstrued. Oh, they're just dogging on the people that work 20 hours on one episode.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. Sorry, we had to get that out of the way so we don't get straw-manned in this thing.
No, we will anyway.
Okay, we're gonna go chapter by chapter. I'll go over my notes. If you think anything to add, you just interject.
Sure.
Okay, the prologue. Wow, I've worked too much this week. The prologue. Prologue. Sorry. Okay, it establishes that Bird is the winner of the district tournament, right, of his own area. He then, after joins a team, he meets friends, becomes Albatross Strikers. He sees Chrome, wants to become a pro. Prologue establishes why he wants to become a pro and where that leads into chapter 1. So that's all of Bird's backstory that you get. It's fair enough. He doesn't need that much in depth for the backstory. Okay, so chapter 1. Okay, oh dear God, I did really write it all. Okay, Chrome uses his drawn sword. He wins with an extreme finish. Chrome borrowed drawn sword from Common X. Team Pendragon are established to be the top team right at the start of this chapter, so you already know they're the end goal for our protagonist group of Persona. Bird specifically says he's been training for a month with his team to try to become pro bladers. And then after he loses to Takumi? How do you say his name?
Takumi?
Well, close enough, I guess. Takumi from Team Phalanx?
Phalanx, yeah.
My dyslexia will be kicking in now. Well, from there, basically kind of what this chapter kind of pushes on it's kind of what you generally see with Beyblade, this idea of like serious, you take the game or that fun aspect. So, for an example, Takumi is like, oh, I've been training 10 years! 10 years I've been training for this. You think, oh, he did a month? That ain't shit. And then after, basically, the X Tower, right? That gets established as this point where all the pro bladers converge and you have to try to win to keep on climbing to be at the top, right? The whole premise of this show is climbing to the top of X Tower to be crowned the best. Okay, so then after the team abandons him because he's weak. Next. Basically, when Bird's kind of reflecting on it, his mentality does kind of shift a bit because now he's sad because his friends left him and his enjoyment of Beyblade, it's like almost like he's questioning it. Like, this is where then after Common X gets introduced, he meets Bird and it's like, hey, you need me if you want to be a pro because you need team members, unless you're multi. And then after, basically, it's like this ideological clash where it's like Common X versus Takumi, where it's like Common X is like, you don't need to take it seriously, and just because you take it seriously doesn't mean you're like better or anything. Like the enjoyment of Beyblade comes in having fun, right? So he says, It's like, hey, you don't need to play Beyblade to win. It's okay to be weak. It's okay not to have talent. And the real winner is the one who had fun, right? Except if you're climbing the X Tower, because then you can't actually climb.
Yeah, I actually did really like that quote. I thought that was like a good way to start off. Be like, yeah, it's not all about winning. It's about having fun. I do really like that sort of ideology in terms of Beyblade and sort of the hobby. But there's definitely, like, if you should have fun for sure. But if you're climbing up a tower full of pros trying to become a pro yourself, you should strive to win.
Right.
Sometimes.
So we'll tackle that in a moment. It's kind of like the mentality stuff. So
sure.
Basically, when he's saying Common X battling the Phalanx group, and basically he's saying like, okay, fine. If you think that if you're weak, you should just give up. Okay, then shouldn't you just give up or whatever? And then after he battles, he beats them, and Common X is enjoying the game. He's having fun. So Bird before was very depressed on this, realizes, wait, Common X is showing me that, like, the enjoyment of Beyblade is, like, the fun of everything. I did enjoy all these things, like winning, battling, and all that stuff. And for Common X, what I really like about him is that part of his strength is not just, let's say, training or all that stuff, is because he has a genuine love for the game, and that feels him. So I like what you just said. That's like a good lesson for Bird.
Yeah.
So then after the next part from there, the important thing actually, which I do like that they set up here, is the idea of the unseen X. I think how the anime did it is kind of... Well, actually, I'll get to the anime. I'll get to the anime after, actually. Okay, for the manga sets up this unseen X, right? The extreme dash. One, I think it's cool how they always handle it, and it's exciting. It's like it's a win condition that's the most amount of points. So them making it like this tough thing to master for any blader, I think it is really cool. And what I like about it too, and you see later on, it's like each of these top pro bladers, they all have a unique variant of an extreme dash. Like, he has like a burn, he's called Burn. Sorry, okay, yeah, he's Burning Maneuver, right? The King of Beasts Extreme Dash. Those are things that I like. So then after Common X now, we see his motivation narratively for the story. That basically, he was originally in Pendragon, but he wanted to leave because when you're at the top and there's no opposition, it gets really boring. So basically, we already know he's at the top. He wants to go at the bottom and climb his way to face off against Pendragon because he wants to face a real challenge. In particular, this is Chrome. His end goal in the story is to battle against Chrome. So Bird, it's like a teamwork. Bird climbs with him. They all have similar goals. It's a motivation that kind of leads towards the end. Yeah. Anything else? Obviously he's wearing the mask, obviously, because he wants like a different identity for him climbing through the tower. But I think what's really good about chapter 1 is that it really kind of sells you on Common X, because Common X for his power level is obviously very, very high. And I think a lot of people forget that, like, yes, he was literally the top team. Yeah, of course he's strong.
Yeah, I have seen that complaint where like, oh, all Bird does is lose, but all Common X does is win. I was like, well, he was at the top, so it kind of makes sense. Like they're only halfway up the tower, so like the expectation for him to lose against these lower tier players isn't like, that doesn't bother me at all.
Of course. So yeah, after that you get to chapter 2. So chapter 2, what I kind of like is kind of how they handle Multi, because Bird doesn't have a Beyblade because they broke his Bay in the previous chapter. So Multi comes, and what I like is that he's drawn to Hellscythe because he's offering Beyblades, and he sees Hellscythe and he's drawn to it. And I like it not just because that's the only actual Bay that he needs to have for marketing, but I like this idea that maybe has some sort of connection to it, and like the importance of having a partner Beyblade, kind of, which later on, if you're really skilled, a partner Beyblade, how much does it actually? We'll get to that. But something I do like about Multi, and I like, trope, but not used in a negative way. It reminds me of that the Pokemon Gym Leader in the new game. I forget what, Scarlet and Violet, where they have like the influencer that's like a blade, and I love that. So Multi is an influencer. And this whole purpose of her lending a Beyblade to Bird was only for the reasoning that she wants to look good. So when she wins, it looks convincing and it's not as boring. So I really like how they set up Multi. And I also like that Bird obviously does not want to lose. And you see that he's actually trying, right? Because he tries to imitate Common X's extreme dash, right? Because this whole thing of like, oh, it's all according to plan, and then after he does it, Multi's obviously a pro, so she obviously wins. And then after, from there, the outfit change, whatever. I like the gimmick. It's a neat gimmick to have like different outfits for different Beyblades, except Night Lance and probably Wizard Rod, but I appreciate the idea of it. After that, it's just like Common X, basically you just see his power level compared to other bladers, and I think it's nice because the more opposition that he gets, the more he starts to try, and then after you see that like a lot of people are really not that close to him. And something I did actually like reflecting on this is when Multi did cry, because at first you're like, oh, it's a little bit silly, whatever, but well, I saw it, I just thought, oh, she's crying, I guess, but when you realize the chapter is the Shigeru, because she lost her like 10,000 times, and then after losing to Common X, yeah, it makes sense why she'd be so defeated there, because part of Multi's journey, and part of what we start to understand later on, that her purpose in the story narratively is to beat her sister. So Common X hits to beat Chrome, Bird it's just really just to climb, and Multi hits to beat her sister, which already, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but 2 out of the 3 are pretty strong leading into the finale.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the only stuff I want to add, kind of shifting a little bit quickly to the animation, I think the animation adds a few more scenes, and we'll kind of just cover it now. I think the good thing that the anime does in particular is more context, or more scenes to help build certain stuff. Like, for an example, Bird has anxiety when he's trying to launch against Multi. That's a scene that's added. That's a nice scene that's added, right? It helps build a little bit of tension for Bird in his battle. And I think in terms of building on narratively what's already there, the anime has got that cleared. So, we're giving the anime credits there. And if there's any other scenes in particular that I can think of after, I'll mention. But aside from that, any particular thoughts on the chapter 2 for Multi's debut that you really liked about, or?
Yeah, I liked, like you said, I liked the influencer thing. I thought that was kind of like a neat sort of like little thing to give to one of the characters. I thought that, I thought that was cool. I thought it was interesting that like when you think about it, like she kind of tried to cheese the match because she gave her opponent a Beyblade. It's kind of scummy when you think about it. She's really trying to sway the match in her favor. She's like, here, take a Beyblade. I know all of these. I probably built them. I know their weaknesses. So it's definitely kindness, like sort of shrouded in the guise of like trying to sway the match in her favor. So, but yeah, I do like Multi. Multi's a cool character for sure.
Okay, so chapter 3, we get introduced to the idea of a Beyblade sponsor. I do want to say, at least the manga-wise, aside from them getting the sponsor, I don't really think the sponsors matter for the manga. Like, it's mostly just that they're mentioned, not really like anything after that, right? Or
yeah, they don't really do much in the manga. They're just kind of like, we have a sponsor. What do they do exactly?
Like in a big family. And then after, like Zuganic, like they mentioned, King was part of this big thing, whatever, before in his backstory, right? Yeah. So, in the aspect here, I think that's where the manga, I think, is maybe a little bit weak, kind of, on the sponsor thing. Like, it's fine, obviously, for the chapter, because the whole point of a sponsor, it's like sports in real life. You need to get a sponsor, the sponsor helps pay for all the stuff so you can continue to do. So, I like that aspect. I do want to say Meiko is very different in the manga and the anime version. Like in the anime, she's a lot more caring because we see more of her. Kind of like almost like the mother of the group. In more of the manga, it's more kind of sideline, kind of just like cold, whatever.
Yeah.
But just to mention some differences just that I can think off the top of my head, just because I probably more screen time, whatever. I do like how the anime, listen, Meiko's probably my favorite character out of all of them, other than maybe Shiro for the design. But yeah, the Meiko chapter was fine. It's not really like anything in particular that was too interesting. She's obviously calculating the percentage of winning. The anime makes it interesting because she knew she was going to lose to Common X, so she tilted her Bay on purpose, so that way it would just be like that. Probably just to fill out the episode runtime, but I did like that Multi does adapt previously because she lost to Common X with Night Shield, so she has a new Beyblade that's evolved, but not evolved as a blade, or not as a literal Bay with Night Lance. So I do like that Multi, you kind of see that she is kind of the only reason why those guys are even climbing at all, because she's basically making their bays. I guess maybe except Common X, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that Common needs them, but yeah, for sure. She's definitely the tactician, I feel like, in the team. I did like the Meiko's or Maiden's backstory. I like that she's like a former pro. I'm kind of hoping they expand on that a little bit.
I think the anime kind of touches on that a little bit because she has like this relationship with Cadover, so I'm very interested to see where they develop from there. But yeah, the former pro thing I almost forgot to mention. That's also true. And yeah, I just think it's pretty nice. Oh, also, I did want to say for the Common X thing for the bays. Actually, we'll save that when we get to the burn chapter. Okay, what's chapter 4? Okay, they give the backstory on when he was leaving against Pendragon. I'm kind of wondering though who won that match, because you see Chrome versus Common X, but you don't see the result of that match. I feel like it might have been a draw, because it would make the most sense. Because they're both waiting for each other, and I don't think if one of them beat them, I feel like it would make sense. Maybe they're even, and then after maybe later on, if maybe one's stronger than the other, that'll be like interesting to see how it goes. Yeah, this is the one where they just established Zuganic in the manga. I do like King a lot. I think King is very cool, kind of taking like this theme of like lion and a hunter, and he's basically playing with his food against like phalanx, which in the manga, they are literally just like a bunch of fodder right after they lose to Common X. Which I guess credit to them, because they somehow managed to climb. They are immediately like, that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, the anime uses them, I guess. That's nice. Oh, also important, the X Tower matches players that are played of equal skill. And I do like that the X Towers, oh my god, it's like this... It's like this idea that you're kind of matched in equal power level. So as you climb, you meet players that are right there and the same strength. Okay, so from there... So Bird is really worried because the team beat him. So he's worried that that team will probably be dangerous for them. But it's kind of funny because... And I was talking to my good friend Keo about this. But... You know, they basically have it where it's not really like Multi or Common X can really lose, and they're not really worried about anything, right? There's not, like, right now there's only the Yggdrasil thing where you can maybe argue there is maybe kind of stakes, but you know, that's part of the thing I really want to see how they kind of go from there, because it's like Multi sweeps, Common X sweeps, and I think their mistake is the order of the matches, because you do Multi winning right away, and I think it kills any real tension, because you don't even get... If they did Bird versus Pan, even if Bird lost at the start, right, that at least is like, okay, now there's a little bit of tension, because now we really have to win the second match. And that's where we get to chapter 5, which is the 4x stadium. That's the benefit of being in the X Tower, where it's like 4x speed, rotation, power, and designs. So the one thing I want to add there, I do really like how they incorporate the idea of like these digital beasts. No, that's what we're going to call it now. Where they... It's a cool idea, like it's a digital manifestation of it. I think... Oh, and we'll get to the anime after, how we kind of maybe think how it was done. But what do you think of like the 4x stuff, how they handled it? Because obviously, since they're centering to more realism, it kind of makes sense, especially when you consider they have like a literal AR stadium.
Yeah, I think it's the smartest way to like retain the whole Avatar Bit Beast thing. In a series that's like supposed to be grounded in reality. Like I could see that being a thing. Like, you know, now we've got like the Apple Vision and like all this like augmented reality stuff. So like I could see that being feasible. So I like that. I know some people don't, because it's just AR basically. It's just like a digital projection or whatever. But I think it's the smartest way they could do it.
Yeah. So I kind of want to cover the matches, because I did write a lot of notes in it. So in terms of like what actually occurs, like I do like, right, that not every single blader, just because you're in a team, whatever, doesn't mean each blader is going to be all the same length. You know, sometimes some people are going to carry you in a team. And I do like that in Multi's match, it really goes to show how powerful that she is as a pro blader, because she's easily winning the match. And I do like that they show the disparity and the difference in the level. I think one thing that they do really nice in X is when they show if you're ass at the game, they'll make it very clear.
Yeah.
For Bird versus Chopin, so Bird is very nervous because obviously this is his first pro match, and he's worried about the launch. So there's tension there for Bird, and that's why I wish it was at the start, because there's that pressure that built up. Because Multi, she doesn't care. She's like, okay, I'll get this done. That's why I think it would have made more sense if the order was changed, so it could have made more sense. But everyone underestimates, like Pan's like whole thing of this like gimmick thing is like, oh, she's tiny, whatever. There's no way she's strong, and I love it because when she launches her Rhino Bay, her arms go like extremely veiny. It holds still and it goes like. And that's all that happens to Bird.
Yeah, and in the manga, it's literally like one panel. It's just like insta death for Bird.
So this is where I want to cover the next part, which is a valid point. And if people are going to deny this, you are coping. It is the idea of a tonal shift. So if you look at chapter 1 and 3 versus chapter 4 onwards, other than maybe the cutover test, there is very clearly a tonal shift visually. How Bird reacts to his losses and how he's depicted. So it's a lot more serious and dramatic in the first few chapters, right? But onwards, it's more like these goofy expressions, this chibi look, whatever. Like even when he's saying he lost, whatever. Like there's like, and I know it's part of Posika's illustration and her style, but it works against it. And this also applies to the animation too, because there's no reason to have like these goofy facial expressions, because then after it becomes a gag, and the gag is not Bird loses, that's the gag. I think when people are reading it, they are either not thinking when I'm saying that. I'm talking about specifically his facial expressions. It's a visual comedy gag. Even in the anime, when they're recapping Persona, like Bird's doing this and like crying that he lost. And it's like, okay, why should I give a shit if he loses if you don't want to make me take this seriously?
Yeah, I have a theory that it's probably because I have a feeling that it's probably because like you can only have the character like so distraught for so long because he's just like constantly losing. If he's just absolutely miserable and like borderline PTSD every time he loses, then like his character is going to be hard to watch at that point, because like there's no way he's having fun if he's just absolutely like just sitting in a corner like crying about it. So
I feel
that's
like
probably part of it.
Yeah, probably. I also feel like I understand that part of Bird's journey you see in each of these matches. One part is the enjoyment. He needs to be enjoying the game. He's still too caught up on the actual stress of playing the game, because obviously Bird he's a low-level blader, and when he's losing all these times, obviously contextually within the narrative, okay, it's because literally everyone else is stronger than him, because he's a noob and this is like the pro world. He's not meant to be there, right? So again, we understand this, and we'll go into it later how we think kind of how Bird is handled, but I just want to kind of describe it. I do want to say, like, for God's sake, man, make him like react, like maybe like, oh wow, maybe next time I should try to practice my tilt or something. Like,
yeah. We don't ever see him actually reflect on like what he thinks he's done wrong. I don't.
And it's worse in the anime, because the anime it's more dragged out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next up. Oh well, I enjoyed very much King versus Common X, because it starts off with a draw. And this is what I like about Common X, and each one of his main battles, even when we know he's going to win, it's how they get to that point. So I like that he draws with King, and Bird's like, hey man, this is like the first time he ever like drew. And Common X is just genuinely excited, because Common X's goal, he wants a challenge. He wants a fight.
Right.
So I like that, and it makes King interesting, and it makes it like, it works so well, and I really do enjoy like their battle a lot, even though Common X wins, because King is not confident when they do the next round, because isn't it like he does it flat and he didn't want to try to match the extreme dash, and he was like,
he changes his technique or whatever. Because they
tried to
drew
go
in
for
the
the
first
defense,
round.
trying to outspin, and it was like, oh wait, you're strong, and then they clear through the first floor. So next up is, actually, do you have anything about, this is like your guy right now, King, so do you have anything about King?
Zuganik's my favorite team. I did a video on it this week, and I talked about it for like 8 minutes. But Zuganik, Zuganik I like a lot. It's one. I mean, there's sort of the meme where like I've been putting every single part that comes out on Leon Claw to try to make it good, but I just like the Beyblade. But Zuganik is my favorite team because like they have synergy that I don't think we don't have that many teams in X so far. But like when you see them in the manga, like they seem like really friendly with each other. Like they seem very cohesive. Their theme is very cohesive, and like I don't feel like we get that from Persona. Like I feel like they're all in the team trying to do their own thing. So I just appreciate that. That and their aesthetic really reminds me of like the White Tigers from Plastic Gen. But Zuganik is definitely my favorite team. so far.
So I think the only real criticism for this would be like the order of this gigantic thing. I think the tension and the stakes, I think, are my issue with X so far. I feel it's lacking, but I feel where they actually do good, it's when you get to the cut-over test, because the cut-over test, all three of them have to clear if they want to progress. Otherwise, they're stuck, and they won't be able to even get to floor 2. So I like that cut-over is this good obstacle. It's been a long week, guys. Please, let me live. Let me live. I had many assignments this week. Please. Okay, obstacle. Because of the fact that, okay, we know Common X wins, you know Multi wins, but Bird needs to win, and Bird loses. Okay, so then after, where I like what the anime does, is that the anime expands on this, because the anime, they actually show him training with it with Common X, like he's actually practicing. So I like that they add that context before there. It just makes it stronger. It's not like the manga is weak when they kind of cut the Hell's Chain. I think it's fine either way. Like, okay, they had the training thing better. Without it, okay, I guess it's fine. So basically, because of the Baycrafter thing, they also throw into a different episode. Because Baycrafter becomes, it's like one part of the chapter, and it kind of gets pushed to like, and we'll kind of cover this too, because it's kind of hard not to talk about the anime without kind of talking about the overall story. But I think one thing I really, really like about the anime is when they focus a lot on the influencer side, and that's the benefits of Multi's character. Like, there's so many times where they have to do like basically like content videos. And I like too, for example, like Multi's personality is very different from when she's like on stage versus normal, like, you know, much like a real influencer. So I like when they build all of this stuff. Like in the Baycrafter episode, it's like, hey, you know, this is like basically like a fan meetup, you know, kind of showcase your shit or whatever. Let's do like a cool video for the. I really think like that's what makes X so interesting. It's like, even though it's similar concepts to what we've seen before, it's like, it's a good take on it. But like, what do you think of like the influencer aspect, kind of like that Baycrafter episode, and in general with their focus on that aspect of it?
Yeah, I really like it in general. I mean, just the parallels to sort of like real life as like somebody who likes making content and somebody who likes watching content. You know, from Western sort of like Beyblade content creators to like the Japanese ones. I like how it sort of like integrates sort of the fantasy of Beyblade X into like real life. It definitely feels more tangible and grounded.
I think it's funny too, because I think for us, my energy in the videos is the exact same as how I am normally. Like when I was younger, that's a little bit different because I'm hyped as shit on this Beyblade stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up. My favorite though is because like, can you imagine if there was like a real comment section for like if Multi wasn't actually battling?
Oh yeah. Most of the time it's just emojis and stuff, but like there's a couple panels where you see like fanboys and stuff, and they're like freaking out.
That is true. I do like the manga too, because there's an actual comment section when they're battling, or like a reaction board.
Yeah, imagine if there was a comment section for Bird though. Like,
oh my god,
it'd be bad.
I do want to kind of point out just a fun thing. I had this comment this week on this guy who I will assume is probably young, but I will also refer to as an idiot because I can. I will be reading this because this relates to the influencer thing, because this was just funny, and I got this week. The most tired commentary and reactions ever. Just make a video in parts next time if you can't handle so many battles at once. This is an epic Beyblade with all those modes in one, and it's just way more hype than you're signing on. So close and yawning the entire time. For the record, this was the Achilles video of the 48 mode change thing.
Oh.
I thought it was funny. Like, can you just imagine Multi? Wow. Do you even care about Beyblade? Oh my god, fake fan. Aside from that, for like the cut-over stuff, so the thing with like the amount of floors I found a little bit, I know the anime, they kind of change whatever floor level. I don't know how much it actually matters. I think they skip in the manga, like straight to like 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
I know it's like there's a lot of amount of floors, but kind of what I'm wondering, because I really love the concept of cut over, kind of like in Pokemon when you have gym leaders and you had to get a badge to kind of clear and move on to the next school.
Right.
And I kind of want to see them explore that, and I hope we get more of these floor bosses. And I think you can easily get away with like 2-3 more teams, or 2 more teams, and maybe like just some floor bosses or something. Because it's a neat concept just to have like this obstacle, like, hey, you might be climbing, but you got to beat me if you want to get further.
Yeah, I think especially, I mean, I can understand the skipping, especially in the manga. I mean, in the anime too, like they can only cover so many floors in 50 episodes or whatever.
I'm just wondering why 100 or why 50? Why not 10?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the idea. I think it's a cool idea. It kind of reminds me of like Sword Art Online, actually. I think that was like 100 floors too. But I do hope that like they don't skip too much and we only get to see them on like 3 or 4 different floors. So they go from 50 to like 70 to 90.
80, 90, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's a lot of skipped content. Maybe, I don't know. I would like to see them expand more on that. So I know they're limited with like the episode count because they don't want to drag this out too long.
The manga, they're limited, but the anime has no excuse. Like, you can have these guys training by going up the floors. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think I'm really hoping that with the UX stuff coming out, they slow down the pacing a little bit so they can take some time to introduce some other teams and go through some other floors rather than skipping huge chunks of the tower.
So I don't even remember how bursted the Baylogger. I don't know how much it actually mattered. I think the battle pass is pretty cool how they handle it, even though I don't know, it really is, but it like has all your blading data, all, you know, it's a little bit more advanced, like all these like specifications and all that stuff. And, you know, part of the thing with Bird, and obviously because they have to like put the battle pass advertisement, but you know, I like how it was kind of done. It didn't feel like it was like a toy ad. It felt like it narratively kind of made sense, whatever. Like it's pretty reasonable. The Bird is new to the game. He didn't know what the hell the battle pass even was or how to use it. And the most important thing here is how they handle actually variants of the Beyblade, not evolutions. So Hell's Chain, which this is going to matter later on because this is kind of a bullshit reason, is for the most current you, right? So when she's making this Beyblade for Bird, right, it's that idea in mind, right? It's like, okay, I'm making this Beyblade for you for the current situation. And this idea basically is that you have it where instead of it being a Bay evolves to the next one, it's like, no, he has Hell Scythe, he has Hell's Chain, she has Wizard Arrow, she has Wizard Rod, he has Drawn Sword, Drawn Buster, etc. They're all for a specific purpose.
Right.
That's okay. I don't know how much they really explored, well, for Common X, because now we get to talk about Drawn Dagger. For Buster, we have to see how they write it. I think Drawn Dagger only works in the burn fight, because before that point, it's not really like he needed it. And the reason why is because it's the whole thing of the Bay time shift, and because he can repeatedly do an extreme dash. So I give a pass there, but they do set up this thing on the side with burn, that the Phoenix Feather thing, because you see in the sidelines, they're developing Phoenix Feather. Phoenix Feather is too weak on the pressure of the launch. Make it again. So then after, something I really like when Bird is battling against Kedova is that even though he loses, and even though multi-strategy for Bird was like, just stand still, win by stamina, Bird wanted to attack head-on, and yeah, you know, she's like, oh, Bird, you idiot. That's not what you're supposed to do. You know, what Common X notes is like, Bird is having fun. So you see, slowly as we are progressing through these chapters, right, narratively, that like, is Bird's enjoyment of the game, and that's probably where it'll kind of go through. Of course, we're going to cover the skill aspect of the bladers that we'll talk about afterwards, but the only really important thing is that I think this is like, even though Burn gets his ass beat really bad, I think it's really cool they set, well, the anime kind of makes it boring, I think, on like the times, because it's different times for when they cleared, but it's like, Common X is like 1.02 seconds, Burn is like 0.98 seconds. So I like that you basically establish that like, okay, this Burn guy gotta be taken seriously because he beat Common X's time. Yeah, what do you think of the Cut Over chapter?
I like it. I like the concept of like them having like a test before they like go up to the next floor or, you know, get their placement or whatever. I hope they keep doing that.
Yeah.
I understand the whole. I can justify the chain thing, I guess, because they're like, well, you know, Hellscythe wasn't designed for you. Let's make you a Beyblade that's actually meant for you. But even then, like, he didn't have batteries or whatever in the battle pass, so she's still guessing with this one. So even Chain is like, well, I think this is what you want, but I don't actually have any data, so here you go.
They do, and I do like the anime that they really explore like the partner and like the importance of creating that band. They're kind of working on that process, so it's like even Hell's Shane, even though she's like troubleshooting with him in the animation, and obviously you know the manga has the whole process. You know, it's like even then, even if you want to say you know they do contribute and Bird still tries to like you know go through that process, whatever, it's still. I really hope they push this with Hell's Hammer. That like this is the right one, and maybe when Bird understands Hell's Hammer, he can understand Hell's Scythe and Hell's Chain. Because he has 3 bays. He's gonna have 3 bays. But what do you think of Burn's setup, by the way?
I liked it. I liked Burn. I liked his setup. I thought he was a really interesting character for the setup specifically. Everybody was super hyped for Burn and for Phoenix. I think the whole setup is really good. I liked it for the manga for sure. I think, like you said, for the anime, things were a little bit slower, but
yeah. So for chapter 7, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and we'll cover this in the anime too, just for the general differences. So Phoenix's feather's purpose narratively is different for the animation and for the manga. I think the anime is maybe like a different direction. We'll cover that. So the whole point of Phoenix Feather and its development is that everyone is using this fast Beyblade, but the idea is like being adjusted to that fast speed, because something I really like about Phoenix Feather, it's really clever, is that even though it's kind of a copy of Drawn Sword, it almost makes sense that it's such a mass-produced Beyblade, and it's trying to go on whatever data it has so far, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there's the Carlo and Marco episode where Carlo has all this data of his whole blading history, whatever, and I know that kind of contributes whatever, and it's a little bit different, whatever, but I like that in the anime, okay, the speed is important. It's less like the phenomenon of the Bay time shift, where it's seeing that fast speed and all these bladers are getting it. The anime, it's more like this horror aspect where it's like, if you have this Bay, it's not that you can experience that these bays are being fast, it's that you can just be as strong as a regular pro. Of course, they attempted to do an episode where they try to demonstrate that just because you have Phoenix Feather doesn't mean you can be at the top. That episode is dog shit. It looks like a smeared shit on the wall every time I look at it, and I'm sorry to say this. It is probably one of the worst episodes I have seen for mainline Beyblade. It's bad. Good concepts, right? Good on paper. Worst, I'm sorry. That episode is like, that's like, you gotta slap some TTCO whoever approved for that episode to get greenlit for that time to get launched. That should have been delayed like 3 weeks. Or whatever time frame. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hate that whole episode.
I agree. And it's like the episodes like before that, I feel like we're going good. Like we're trending upwards, like in terms of quality. And then that one dropped down. I was like, whoa, what happened?
But to give the anime credit, I think it's way better how the anime handled it than the manga. I like the idea that it's almost like this infection on the pro blading world. Like there are so many, like Toguro gets overpowered. So again, I like the initial debut of Phoenix Feather. I think after what the anime does, but give credit where credit's due, very, very strong, because Bird's very worried. He's like, if anyone can have this, then what about our team? And he gets like this big fear. So again, credit where credit's due there. Okay, so basically, going back to chapter 7, it is this idea that he's adjusted to his speed. We can all see how faster Bay is going. It's almost like, kind of like, if you're like a speedster in the comics, right? And like, when you have like your ability, it's like everyone else just looks like it's slow motion or whatever. Or like
Right.
even like just adjusting to the general speed. Like their eyes now are now normalized to that fast speed. And I like it because, again, even though we know Common X is strong, that builds good tension that they adjusted to the prime aspect of like Common X's strength. It's like, it's the speed. They're worried for him because it's this idea of like fast. You know, Beyblade X is based on speed. And I do have to give credit to Beyblade X in general because the idea of building not only skill and strength, but speed being such an importance, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I really liked the setup for it. I thought it was cool. It was kind of a cocky flex too for Byrne to be like, yeah, I'm going to create this Beyblade and then distribute it so
And you do,
everybody
like,
can
bet
watch my
where
match.
It's like, if you beat me, then you win. But if I beat you, I win. And it's winner. It's like for keeps.
Yeah,
But
winner
Common
takes
X,
all.
I love his press and knowledge. He's like, no. If I win, they still get to play.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
I like.
I don't think Common X really seems to care too much. I guess because he's just like,
He's just vibing.
yeah, he's just like, yeah, let's just play, whatever happens. Oh, Bird loses, whatever. Like no, there's a chapter, right? The latest chapter where we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. So I do like also the lore accuracy of this, because in Chapter 8 you find out that we didn't KO him. He self-KO'd, because that's what Gear Flat does. So, to the writing team, you did good there. Lore accurate Phoenix Wing.
Yeah.
So, I do like that after this point you see that Common X is like, what are you talking about? That's not my highest speed. I can go way faster than this. So this is where Drawn Dagger makes sense, because Drawn Dagger can repeatedly do an extreme dash. Okay, I can buy that he builds so much speed consistently to keep on doing a repeated extreme. So maybe if he used only Drawn Sword, he would have been in trouble. So fine, Drawn Dagger relevancy appears in that point. So I like that. And Byrne is literally just fighting for his life. So even though he loses, I like that. Is this not where it ends for Byrne? It's like, okay, I've seen something even faster now, so I'm going to go back to the drawing board. So kind of, what do you think of that part, before we get to the team battle? What do you think of that portion of the chapter?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it sort of illustrates maybe like less attachment to a specific Beyblade, because like all the previous series, like it's like, yeah, this is my partner or whatever. This is my this is my only Beyblade. But like, I mean, we already saw at the beginning, like Chrome, you know, X's like rival or whatever. Like he had just given him Drawn Sword to use. We don't know for how long, but like. So it's not like he's like super attached. He's like, yeah, you can use this, whatever. And the fact that he's willing to just jump from Beyblade to Beyblade, he's like, oh yeah, that's interesting, or that's cool, or whatever. And like, I like that. Realism. I like that part of it. Yeah, like, yeah, because
when I buy Beyblade, it's not going to evolve.
Yeah, it's not going to evolve, and it's also like, it's nice to see characters just use other stuff. And it not like just magically change into something else, or it shatter, and they're like, oh no, I need a new Beyblade now. Because like up until now, that's kind of like what happens. Either there's a situation where they need to upgrade, and then that's what they use for like half a season, or it breaks and they need to make a new one. And so I like that they're just like, yeah, let's just make other Beyblades just to use them. Let's have like an arsenal that we can pick from. Like the whole deck format, I think. Is sort of like we don't see them sort of picking and choosing like in like real life the way deck format would work, but it's nice to think that maybe they're going into these matches going, what would be good for this match? I like that.
Exactly. So I think part of where this chapter gets really weak, and obviously this probably is the core limitations on the pages, it's the idea. that they do the team battle. So first of all, Bird's obviously very worried that, oh, what about our team? I'm not too sure about this. They're kind of encouraging him, and I think it's not, again, I don't like the surprise reaction. I think it's really stupid, and I think Bird has lost the exact same way to the exact same type of Beyblade that I feel is a little bit repetitive. Because if you remember, what are his two losses? Against defense types, and there's an exposition right after that. It's the same setup. He does an extreme dash. It doesn't do shit. Okay, well, actually, in this case, it did do shit. But you know what I mean.
It's
repetitive.
It feels like he keeps doing the same thing. It just doesn't go anywhere.
So I'll cover this, and then after I'll hear what you think, because Kyo mentioned this to me, and I'm like, holy shit, you're right. So one thing I really hate, and the anime establishes this, and I'm gonna get this, episode 3, where Multi basically, and obviously this was stated in the animation, so I'm just saying if the anime also does this mistake, then I'm not gonna like it either, which technically I've already done, where Multi is basically saying you can't succeed being a pro by copying things. And I'm like, wow, that's like a really good lesson to establish really early on. Does Bird learn from this?
Well,
like what is... It's the Sphinx episode, which is funny because the anime, and we'll get to how the anime does their adaptation, but the anime basically adapts like part of this, where it's the imitation extreme dash. And I'm just thinking like, it didn't make any sense with, in general, imitation extreme dash, because obviously in this chapter, Common X does the infinity extreme dash, and Bird does the imitation of it. Kyo mentioned to me, it's like, hey, he has a special move called Chain Blast. Why doesn't he do like his own version of extreme dash? Why does he have to copy Common X?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. Maybe I guess he just looks up to him because he's already been to the top.
Writing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, any justification is just like a
You want to know
headcanon
what?
type thing.
You know what have been it really made it stronger? If he attempted to do his own extreme dash, they could have been like, oh, well, Bird's technique isn't perfected, but he's trying to be his own identity. Maybe he does like chain breaker extreme dash. And you want to know why it makes the difference? Because it's his actual identity. And I feel it's so like lame that he just copies Common X. Like, don't tell me that portion, like, oh, okay, well, Bird's still trying to learn. No. Even if there's 7 chapters left, I feel this should have been the point, that they should have given him, like, his attempt. For God's sake, Shigeru literally has her own version of Extreme Dash on a bay she picked up day 1. That's Bird's bay. Like, come on.
Yeah, they've done a really poor job of, like, showing that Bird has, like, any knowledge whatsoever. Like, so... I mean, he built his own Beyblade, right? So, like, Strike Hawk he built. He had this team. He did all right at, like, his locals or regional, whatever it was. And then he comes to X Tower and he just doesn't know anything, is bad at everything. Like, doesn't make sense.
And I got really frustrated with that part of how they wrote the chapter, because I'm just thinking, I'm like... Serious? I'm actually gonna now double check the context of this, because there is no shots that it was that bad. I'm actually double checking this at this point. I actually want to fact check myself to see how bad the writing was for this. Because first of all, let's be clear now. His contribution to weakening Sphinx is because of the pacing. Don't tell me, oh, it's his confidence, whatever. You can say maybe, but let's be honest now. This whole 2v2 thing, I really don't like it because it's too rushed. You don't see the effects really of Bird doing the impact. It's mentioned, it's not shown. Again, show, don't tell. We don't need the commentary of this. Maybe Bird does the hit and you see Sphinx, maybe see a reaction, right? Like, there are better ways to do it where it's more convincingly for Bird. So something else that I think Kyo pointed out, the whole idea of the Infinity Extreme Dash, it's only enabled because Common X has the rush bit, right? That's the whole purpose of it. Yeah, so he says strike them with everything. Shit, it doesn't even make any sense in this shit. Because Common X does the rush, That's the whole point of the infinity. He's just striking with all of his might, and he's just copying the infinity extreme. Come on, guys. This is not... Don't tell me this is good writing.
Yeah.
This was like, bruh, how are we going to do it? What if he copies Common X? And the only thing I do like is that in that page, they do have the Hell's Chain avatar creature thing, and he's holding a mirror to Common X. That was the only thing I liked. I was like, okay, that's cute, I guess. But... yeah, I think that was super, super lame for the writing for them to do that, because it's like, okay, you're going to push this idea that this bay is like designed specifically for the current bird. He's not using his bay. He's not, this is where it gets to chapter 9, because in chapter 9, very good for Multi, where essentially she comes because she's like, Common X, what are you doing? These guys are weak, you're wasting your time. Well, Common X is like, well, try against Bird, and then after... she borrows Bird's Bay. She wins with Bird's Bay very, very easily. Okay, so then after something else, it's like... okay, so the fact that she's winning with any balance type Beyblade, it makes sense, right? She's at the top. Her power level to beat Bird, fair enough, right? I think where my issue lies, it's almost like it's... What do you think of Chapter 9? What do you think of Chapter 9 for how they handled how the bays are used and that type of stuff?
I thought it was kind of funny, actually.
That's when else picks his bay.
Yeah, I mean, and she's just like, oh, that's interesting, and then just instantly beats Bird with it against his newer version or whatever. Like, I think I like. I'll say this. I'll like that it reinforces that it's about the skill of the player and not what Beyblade they're using, because she can take the previous version and she can win with that. And so I like that. I like that part of it for sure.
I think the idea is like, so the issue is that in the manga, you don't really, even in the anime, there are like some training episodes and there's some stuff here and there, but you're not really seeing this skill aspect kind of like developing with him. And it's like, they're kind of saying, okay, Hell's Chain is made for you. And Kyo was telling me about this and I'm like, yeah, I actually do agree. It's like, why is it really for Bird? What's the purpose?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, is like Multi made it without any actual info. So like it's made for Bird, but without any actual, like no battle pass info. So, I mean, maybe...
sorry.
Go ahead.
So where it gets frustrating, it's like, okay, they basically establish in a way that these bays are like stronger and has helped them climb. And the idea with these variants is almost like a cheat code, but in reality, it's almost like this skill. So I think it gets very conflicting because it's like, okay, are these bays just, they're really, really powerful? And you establish in the cut over test, by the way, that just because you have a new Beyblade doesn't mean an instant win, which I do like. But you know, Multi and Common X get the excuse because they're pros, but Bird, I think it's like, it's the skill aspect that is really lacking. And I think the issue is that you don't see him develop. You don't. Not with Hellside. Because regardless if she's a pro or not, the fact that she can literally pick up the bay and do that work, that means Bird could do that. And I think the issue, again, it's not the fact that he's weak. It's not the fact that he's a noob in a pro world. It's that his progression, tell me what his progression is. His progression has been in the cut over test. He got more enjoyment out of the game, and part of that is his enjoyment. Here's where it comes full circle, is that he doesn't have any skill, and it's getting really frustrating at this current point. If they don't develop the skill aspect of him, like let's say they focus more on the manga or even the anime, practicing an extreme dash. Maybe there's a whole episode where he gets his own unique extreme dash. They need to drive that home because otherwise it's not going to be convincing if you get to the finale and Bird beats Chrome or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the higher they get up, the more frustrating it's going to be if he just goes from being terrible to all of a sudden winning. So they need to do training. They need to focus on Bird establishing his own identity, his own strategies. You know, I think they've already. I think with the variants, like it's like it gives you the potential to maybe push further, or for you to utilize more I don't know, power or whatever. But if you don't have this skill, it doesn't correlate. So it's like if you buy a new keyboard that has faster switches on it, so they actuate faster. Like if you suck, faster switches aren't going to do anything. Sort of same thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like better equipment doesn't make you better. You still have to like
And honestly,
better.
I think what you're saying, it really resonates with me when I'm thinking about that, because there are a lot of bladers that are even new to the game, like on a recent one, like there's a kid who, and I have to edit the footage, I've been so busy with my assignment work, who had like Rhino Horn on the defense and beat my Cobalt Drake. And just because I had Drake, I still lost to a Rhino Horn. And I do like that idea. It's like, just because you have the tools doesn't mean that. So I don't think it's necessarily bad writing per se, is trying to boost them on the power level, that's fine. I think I really want to see how they adjust to the betas. So something you actually talked about too, it's like the synergy of the team. Something I want to see moving forward with the manga is going to be this idea, them starting to really bond and be together, because it's more just like kind of like work colleagues than like friends.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said at the beginning, like everybody's motivations are different. So Multi's trying to beat her sister, X is trying to beat Chrome, Bird is there for whatever, but like it doesn't feel like they've connected really. It doesn't seem like they're really close to each other. Like I would like for that to be fleshed out more for sure.
Well, I'll say I think to a greater extent, obviously, see in the anime that Multi, really is passionate about making the baby with Bird. There's like a general bond, but just so we're clear, obviously the people listening, it's not like there's no bond at all. I just mean like like really, really see them like kind of like the dynamic of Zuganic almost,
Yeah.
a bit. I don't know. I feel like kind of like Persona's dynamic is almost kind of like siblings almost. So I don't know. Maybe just explore more.
Yeah, 100%.
So I just want to make it clear. We're not saying it's bad. We like.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying there's none. I would like for them to feel like they're closer. They're becoming closer friends, or they understand each other a little bit better. They're helping each other a little more. Especially Common X, because for the most part, it really just feels like he's just kind of there.
I really like Common X. I don't know why Common X gets hate, because I was rereading the manga, and I actually really love him.
I really like his character too, but he's very aloof. Like he's just kind of like goes with whatever. He's like, yeah, they can fight. Like, okay, the latest chapter where she's like, how are you playing with, these bad players or whatever? And he's like, what? They're bad? I didn't know. Like,
I think it's more like, I think it's because it's like he's enjoying the game, he's having fun with them, so he doesn't really care. And I feel probably what you'll see in the finale will maybe be this ideal clash of like serious versus fun, and I think you can do it like a billion times and I'll still enjoy it because it's it's a good idea. And I think before we forget with Multi, we already knew Multi was gonna lose. Her bay's not out. It makes sense. I really like how they build with Multi, and I think right now for this midpoint, for the manga, obviously the anime has to catch up, but at least for the manga-wise, I think like it's solid. I still think it's more compelling than the previous generations. And by the way, not that these generations are bad, I just think there's more substance to like the characters, how they're written, because keep in mind, this is like the first time that we've had it, isn't it? Like where it's like, there's an author, like the Kakaguri writers, and there's like the artist, the illustrator, which is Posuke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the first time. And yeah, I agree. I would agree with you, because I haven't read all of the Burst manga, but I've read some of it. But I have read like all of Plastic Gen and most of Metal Fight aside from Zero G. But I think X has the best manga. And that's like, and I really like some of the previous manga as well, but it definitely has the most substance. Like there's the pacing issue for sure, but that's mostly due to the manga being monthly.
That's even in general with all the gens.
Yeah, it's just really, if it was a weekly series like, One
Oh
Piece
God.
or Dragon Ball or any of these other series, like they could flesh things out a lot more. But because it's only once a month and it's capped at like, like I think max we've had is like what 70 pages or something like that, and that was like a
Only the debut, and
special,
then it died. Yeah.
yeah, special page count or whatever. Most of them are like what 30 pages, so they're very limited on what they can stuff in. So, but I do think overall it has the most substance in terms of like the characters and the story. I think that's partly why it feels like it can be a little slow, just month to month.
Yeah.
I really wish the series was weekly.
Well, if even I don't know, even if you see like a lot of like even like Oda or like a lot of these top manga guys, like even they take breaks, whatever, because it's like is a lot of work. So even then, I would say
it's insane. It's insane.
maybe less, like the amount per week and more pages per month. So
Yeah, I mean
I think that's
either
the
way,
idea.
like just more would be
Yeah.
good. I wouldn't wish like the workload of like a manga
Oh, yeah, of
artist on
course, of
anybody.
course.
It's insane. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a product of Koro being
So
monthly.
yeah, like I said, that's the only real issue I really have with them. Is just the page limit, because it really does hurt a lot of aspects like Bird through his progression. I know. I think
Yeah.
we've been pretty fair to Bird. That's why I did part of the research. Whatever. Has been pretty fair in that regard towards him. I don't think we did anything that was like not reading it or trying to discredit. We tried to clarify everything. I'm gonna quickly go over the anime stuff, and then after we'll give our thoughts on the general idea of the anime, just in terms of anything else. Okay. Okay, actually, yeah, speaking of the anime, I want to put this out of the way, but like, this might be a really bold take, and this is no offense to the character designer because they do god work. I think it's the same one. I think it's, yeah, it's like the same designer who did like Burst, and I think like Metal Fight for like the anime designs. I'm pretty sure. You know what I mean? The character designer.
Yeah.
Whatever. So my issue when they're adapting the anime, and it's like a general thing, but like I want their designs to be as faithful as possible to the original like character design.
Yeah.
I think X is maybe the closest to maybe that idea. I think where you start to see a disconnect is the anime exclusive characters, because there is very clearly a design difference for how they look like. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can maybe say this kind of like Posoka. I'm sorry, guys, I don't know how to pronounce it. Her art style, I feel, is very well translated for like the main character stuff when they are on model. But yeah, some of the exclusive, that's just something that's like just bogging me down. But okay, for the anime stuff, episode 2 added the anxiety scene. I thought that was really good. Episode 3, the friends talk to Bird that previously abandoned him. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Practicing with Multi, I think that was really cool. The branding, I think, is really smart. Episode 4, I like the idea that they're focusing in general on like there's a whole episode of training where it's literally like amazing. It's like it's literally just strategy and just trying to use different bays. Episode 8, I enjoyed their take on how they did Multi for the Baycrafter. I think where the anime benefits is the sponsor, because Takumi's team, or whatever, Team Phalanx, I think it's another sushi place, isn't it?
Oh, I don't recall.
Whatever. I like that even though it's a team you don't really have to give a shit about, it's like they make you at least kind of care, because that match is what hindered if they keep the sponsor or not. And I really, really like that. And there's like a consequence to this. And it kind of builds to that episode when they come back on the feathers, but there's some issues I have with that. I liked the cut over. They had the training in between. I like the Marco episode. I thought was fine. It was like a pro that was like basically like, man, we lost to Chrome. I just want to have one good match and then I'm done. And I like when he talk. I like this aspect when he's talking to Bird. Whatever, I think it's fine. This episode was, I don't know, there's some episodes when I'm watching, I don't know if it makes sense to say this, but like you watch an episode and you feel like it's being dragged out and it could have just been like half an episode of whatever you're doing. Like the Marco episode, it could have been like half an episode. And that's even like the Sphinx episodes. Like, it could have been one episode. Didn't have to be two. So, part of the thing with the anime, by the way, because when we're saying filler, right? Or like, what do you mean filler? It's not really filler in the context of the anime. Okay, true. The way that they do this, because it's like the first time it's ever really happened, because generally how it goes is that there are general notes that go back and forth between the anime and the manga. Mm-hmm. So the anime will hit kind of similar story beats, like this bay has to break, he has to win, how that happens, how they handle that. But the difference in X is that X is almost one-to-one. So there's a lot of space in between, especially now. And there's some benefit to this, like we mentioned, like character training or expanding on characters. Because for an example, we didn't even mention this because we ran into this so many times. Tsunamos and Uni are like, they have no character in the manga. They're just fodder. That's it.
Yeah.
And the anime is expanding on it. So that's, again, it's credit to the animation. They get to expand on it, and I think that's really nice. So again, there are benefits to this, right? The fan episode, I am so on. So the fan episode, it's like this idea of like, she's the fan of Bird, and she doesn't care that Bird lost. She's actually motivated by Bird because even though he keeps on losing, it's like, wow, that's really cool that you're still keeping on fighting. But I really think, and in general, Bird needs to be winning outside of the X Tower, and this should have been the episode. And I don't agree with this notion that Bird's first win has to be something major. Bird's major win in the X Tower can maybe be something like that, but like at least outside, like, I think it should have been that he could have won, and there could have maybe been some lesson there. Maybe I understand what they're going with, right? That it's like, oh, if you won, I don't know.
It undermines whatever he does on the tower. Like that's what I see the most is like, well, if he wins outside, it undermines like his win in the tower and this and that. But my issue is it slows the pacing down so much because we're all just waiting on Bird to win. I feel like once Bird wins, then the pacing is going to change drastically. Because then he can win moving forward. But like it's so slow, just waiting for him to do something.
Do you think it would undermine the message of the episode if Bird won? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really think so because even if Bird wins, like he's already been established, by the way. He's won in his hometown, right? So if he won there, that's why it's like. And keep in mind, Bird would have won. They cheated. I think I would have preferred if he beat the cheat. That's my issue. It's because then after, if you want to get into this argument of where your preference is on where he wins, it's like, well then, if he's not progressing in skill or whatever, then it kind of feels a little bit dragged out. Again, the Marco episode, I like. The fan episode, I do like. They need to do plushie merch. That's another topic for another day because CT is cowards. What do you think, by the way, of the Zoo sponsor stuff? I like that they actually visit where Zuganic sponsor is.
Yeah, I mean, any content that we get that like expands on some of the other teams, I'm down for. Anything that expands on Zuganic, they're my favorite team. I'm totally down for. I thought it was a good idea. I think a lot of the filler has been pretty good. Like even like the training stuff has been pretty good, but my issue is like the filler like 4 episodes ago or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, nice. We're Bird's training and this and that or whatever. He's making progress, and then it's like 5 episodes later and he still hasn't done anything. I'm like, why couldn't he have? He could have won outside the tower. Like that would. Like they're not pros. They're not in the tower. Let him have something. And it's not just us. Like if you look at like Get on X or Twitter or whatever and look at like Japanese accounts, people are complaining about the same thing. They're like, when's Bird gonna win? Exactly. When's he gonna do something? Comparing them to other characters. He's like, please give Bird a win. So like it's just that's my biggest issue, I think, and the thing that is like affecting the pacing more than anything is the fact that they refuse to give Bird a win. and they just keep climbing up higher, and he's just not. It doesn't feel like he's getting better.
And I think as we elaborated, because obviously, listen, when we're tweeting about this stuff, there's only so many times you can. I'm not writing up a paragraph to explain my. That's why we're doing this right now. It's like I understand. It's the journey. I'm just saying the journey right now. It's not really written that well. That's what we're saying. I understand his character. It's the enjoyment aspect. It's building towards that, his goal to climb. But I'm saying the skill and that development, the writing is not there. Now, we're going to speed through the rest of this stuff. Okay, the 18th episode, or whatever it was when there's the Phalanx is using Feather. I didn't like when Taisha was like, oh, remember he was like doing that like speech for like Takumi whatever, because he didn't want to use the Bay or whatever. I didn't like when he was saying like, oh, you were tough, whatever. But dude, he broke base. I don't like that weird retcon that they have, or maybe he didn't watch the matches where he literally destroyed people's base. I don't like that sympathy. I think that was really dumb when they did that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the first episode, he's literally like shattering people's Beyblades, and then they try to get you to sympathize with him, 15 episodes later or whatever. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, this should have been the episode where this was like Takumi realizes that his mentality for how he treated others, maybe he shouldn't have done that, because it actually says, wow, you want to know what? Like there's the idea there, but I think the execution sometimes really falls flat.
Yeah, the setup, I think, for a lot of things has been really good, but the execution afterwards has fallen short. So like they've done a lot of really cool setups that like haven't either haven't panned out yet or just haven't gone anywhere, period.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody's just waiting for something to get expanded on. So the backstory of Common X, that gets expanded on. Pendragon, that gets expanded on. Multi, I guess the latest chapter, that's probably, in terms of like actual like new lore, that's probably one of the more interesting chapters I think that we've had. Yeah. You get introduced to Multi's sister. There's like the whole fact that she was on Pendragon. She was teammates with Cross. And then she is a god. She beat Multi 10,000 times. Like,
insane.
I like all that. Yeah, I like the fact that she picks up Hellscythe and beats Bird with it against Chain. That whole chapter I really like. But like, it's just the pacing. It's just the pacing for me. Yep. Like they'll give you like a chunk of like really cool stuff, and then they won't go anywhere with it. Like the whole build up for Burn, they built up. I was like, oh, this is such a cool character. Phoenix is awesome. This whole setup, he's like some rich kid whose parents own some pharmaceutical company. Like he's distributing all these Beyblades or whatever. Like that whole setup is really cool. And then you get to the battle, and it just like,
yeah,
not much really happens.
I think it's just the team battle that really poisons the Yggdrasil battle. Like the Burn battle, I'm like okay with, but then the other half of it's really bad, and kind of hurts it. But the manga, we basically gone over, pros, the art, the story, cons, just really the pacing because of the Koro. For the anime, I think the voice acting, very, very good. I really think they're really into it. I think Common X's VA is like amazing. Like, dude, he just is having a fun time. Yeah. I think all of the audio, like all of the sound design, the sound effects, the music and everything, I think it's all really good. I will say that. I think the music, they got more of an identity as it went on. It was kind of, I don't know, I didn't like, Multi got like this weird like steampunk theme, I think, kind of originally.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. It was kind of too royalty free for my taste. Afterwards, it kind of gets like progressively a little bit better. I think the VFX, so that means the Beyblade trailer, the little effects stuff, I think that looks pretty nice. Or the special effects.
Yeah, the special effects are cool.
I think where the anime gets there is, other than pacing, it's the utilization of CG. Because, okay, for an example, in the manga, when Taisho has this flashback, of when he was younger is using a reference to Dragoon. In the anime, they couldn't do it a doodle, and they replaced it with a shark. That's many questions now. So as Beyblade X existed now for like 40 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that made no sense. It would have been cool for them just to. I mean, they own the rights. Why couldn't they just stick? It's just dumb. I didn't like that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think also even that one, it's like even though they used the case later on, like even that one I didn't really like. Cause I think he had like so many shark edges, whatever, and it's like so. Obviously, within this world, at least I want to say, kind of the manga, but more the anime, they kind of established this idea that there are just specific models to base. So, like, for example, King's Leon Claw, that specific model gets used. That's like an okay excuse, I guess. But part of the thing that you'll notice, and this criticism is like, for starters, they use it in situations where I think it's not needed, or they just don't recolor the stuff, or they don't change the combos of the stuff. Okay, so my point here with the use of the CG models is that they're kind of just reusing even the basic ones, even if you want to say they established some lore reasons, whatever. It's just cheaper and more cost effective to not want to make new combinations, or maybe not even to recolor, I guess, because they are capable of recoloring the stuff later on, but I don't know, even in the world, even if they want to say, oh, it's this, I don't know, it still kind of feels a little bit cheap to me. Like, especially when you compare it to past generations, how they handled it, I am not a fan. Because you've seen there have been times when there are different bladers that will literally have multiple variants of a bay or whatever, and they actually change it up visually, creature or whatever, to actually make it feel unique. And here, I don't really feel that's been done yet, or at all, to be honest. I'm trying to think, like, the textures I don't think would take that much, and if someone knows about this, maybe a better idea of anime production, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this changing the colors, to, like, maybe the model swap, maybe some rigging has to be done differently to, like, match whatever, but the color change, like, does that really take a lot of time to do and they can't do it? Or
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I can answer that for you right now. It does not. It does not. They could literally just, like, if it's just a texture, like, they can literally just, like, drag and drop, change the hue, and like, it's done. But like, they did it. I mean, not just with Sphinx, but they did it with like Viper too. They used like stock colored Viper, did they not?
Yep. And Shark. Like, and you say Cobalt Drake that is reused for like 2, 3 frames, whatever. You can make it, but that was also kind of lame. And I think it's my issue with how OLM, and obviously OLM is not this encompassing thing. There are specific teams that work on it, which I'm going to write this note down. But I think it's the team that did Quad Strike that's doing Beyblade X. If I'm wrong, someone can correct me. But regardless, their approach in Beyblade Burst is like, their utilization of CGI I very much disagree with, just in general. I feel like if you look at Metal Fight, there's a lot of times where it's hand-drawn, there's a lot of times where they blend it properly with the environment, and I feel like a big issue in general with the animation, not even just with the CG aspect, the compositing is super weak. And compositing, for those of you that want to understand, it's like different layers and filters to kind of build a scene together. And I feel not even just making the bays look like they exist in that world, which I would even argue, it almost feels like even V-Force like did a way better job of convincing you that exists in the animation than almost like sometimes when I see Burst, because it's like, it's almost the same issues, like no shadows, and this does matter for immersion's sake, right? Like the shadows, all this stuff, like, and this goes to like the Dato episode. Like you can see what happens when you have like the worst case possible for everything. Now, obviously, I do also acknowledge that Beyblade as 51 episodes is a lot. It's a lot of episodes. If you look at some of like the best animated anime seasons, like there may be half that length, 1/4 that length. Like maybe Frieren, for an example, even those shows, you're like Spy Family, for an example, those are done in curves. Like it's like, here are like 12 episodes, okay, small few months break, we're back at it again. So I do understand that part of Beyblade is very rough because you can't have that perfect reality where it's like, it's because there's no time. There's no time and probably there's no people for it. But again,
Yeah.
just because it's the circumstance does not change the quality of the product itself, right? If I give you a burger and that burger is like undercooked, oh, well, I don't have electricity for the grill. Well, it's a bad product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they could easily just add more people to the team. You know, they could add more budget.
They could, like a restriction. Maybe it's like a budget restriction. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I would.
You gotta remember that, like, TT does not give a shit how good this anime is, right? They rushed this out. They're like, well,
yeah. I mean, that's true. But like, the problem is, like, we've had good, relatively good Beyblade series in the past. Good animation, like when you watch the anime, it feels lived in. Like, it feels believable. Versus like X, a lot of times it almost feels like you've got little cutouts, or it's like visual novel looking almost. Like, it doesn't feel like I've watched a decent amount of anime, okay, and so like there's anime that incorporate CGI that look good, even ones that like are like not that are like similar, right? Like kids stuff, like LBX, like that was relatively good. Like Gundam Build Fighters, that's another one that has CGI that looks pretty good. I mean, I don't know, man. For a property that generates so much revenue, you would think they would invest a little more.
You would think they would care more about it, but it's like they don't care because it just drives the sales. That's why I'm upset. Don't think like, listen, I understand the circumstance. I just think the circumstance is a shitty excuse for bad management choices. It's not a good excuse.
Yeah, I mean the outcome is like the product that we've received is like fully like on the shoulders of Takara Tomy and the budget that they put forth for this. They could be better if they wanted it to be.
So I will read a Twitter post. And by the way, I want to put this disclaimer now because now we're at the community part, because we gave our praises and our negatives. Just because I'm reading it, just because we maybe goof whatever, it's banter. Don't harass or attack the people. They have their opinions. Please be respectful about it. Unless they attack us. In that case, I think people complain too much about the technical part and end up not seeing the staff's commitment to delivering good work. The anime doesn't have better animation because it really couldn't deliver with a low budget and a deadline. And what I say to that is, like, for an example, when you look at superhero movies like the DC stuff or the Marvel stuff, people aren't tired of superhero movies. People are just tired of this like CG slop fest where it's like the VFX artists have no time to cook at all. It looks bad. It doesn't look good. You know, it's like, again, it circles back to the same thing that I just said. It's like, listen, you can't just if we're just going to go on like, you did good and give like a little ribbon, that it doesn't work like that, right? It's like, it's the product that matters. That is what we're evaluating at the end of the day. And I don't think it's wrong to point out these aspects. Yes, I know, obviously, that no animator who's working on a project wants it to be shit. They want to do the best job possible. And listen, I think as Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm pretty sure, if you've seen the schedule that these guys work, my God, it's some crazy shit like 2-3 days in advance before the episode airs. So we understand, but again, who is the fault? It's not the people who are working on it, it's the people who are managing it, who are making these decisions when the project comes out, when these episodes come out. The blame goes to TT.
Yeah, we're not blaming the individual animators or the VFX artists or any of that. It's not those guys' fault, right? It's the conditions they're working under, it's the resources that they have available. We're not blaming we're not blaming those guys.
It's like, okay, they work, I understand, but what do you want me to say? If it looks bad, it looks bad. Like, yes, it's good in this one aspect, but that really annoyed me. So we got actually a lot of good input on here. We're gonna go over them. Oh my God, thank God I have this. Hold on, how much time we got? That depends how much I read.
I'm good, man.
Okay, hell yeah. Watch time, baby. Pay my bills for February. Okay, brother, I got a drink first. Hold on. This is like, dude, if you first of all, whoever actually wrote, God bless you, because it takes a lot to put out your opinion and to actually put like the effort on this. I do appreciate it, even if agree or disagree. So to give you context on the community post, it's asking what are their thoughts on the characters, all that stuff. Alrighty. Story, I'm from Sir. I can't pronounce the other half of your name, my friend. I apologize if I don't want to butcher it. And it's I don't want my dyslexia to kick in. I'm liking the story so far, not much to elaborate, but I'm enjoying and interested to see where it goes. We agree. The pacing in the manga is not that great, at least in the latest chapters. It's noticeable how the writes are trying to fit as much things as possible since it's a single monthly chapter with limited pages, of course, specifically in the manga where it would have benefited by more bi-monthly release than just, this is kind of what you said, Nizuma. The anime they have there has much better pacing, with the exception of a few specific fillers. Yeah, I can agree with that. Most of the anime-only content is very welcome. And the anime breaks into mini arcs. We kind of discussed this, how the anime kind of like stuff kind of connects with each other. So that's why I said it's kind of filler, but not filler, right?
Yeah.
I like Head Over's Challenge, Hell's Chain, Drawn Dagger, instead of it just all being at once. The stakes aren't in the plot aren't that high right now, mostly to do how strong the team is. And even if they lose, we still aren't fully certain what the consequences of the actions will be. I hope there'll be better understanding as the season progresses. I agree, because for the finale, you maybe have stakes and you'll maybe have tension, but right now, if they win, I don't know. Multi, I like her whole gimmick of changing outfits, and the bays are really cute and interesting. She's a very likable character overall. I think she has one problem. She kind of feels like a female Common X. You see Bird being the weakest in the... Okay, so it's like this idea that Multi's strong and Common X is strong, and she's one-shotting her opponents, kind of like Common X is, basically. So it's almost like, okay, so I can kind of get the idea. Aside from like X or Shigeru, she never had a battle where she couldn't easily win. The closing scene is her struggling against the Phoenix Feather, but even then the victory was pretty fast. And, okay, so for Multi, it's this idea that it's like, Multi is not, and this is my issue with the story too, it's like, other than Bird when he battles, there's no tension or stakes for Multi or Common X. And it's like when I was talking to Kyo about this, it's like, yeah, that's my issue with the story so far. It's like...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just a product of like, if you don't give Bird wins, then Bird and Multi have to win if they want to progress. Otherwise, they don't move. In terms of the tower, so they have to win. So it's like a double-edged sword. It hurts Bird not to make any progress, and it hurts Multi and Cross, because like they literally cannot lose. Otherwise, the team either, I don't know. We don't even know what happens. Do they derank? Do they go down the floor? Do they just stay on the floor? I don't know.
Who knows? That's for the writers to decide if they want to write it. Okay, Bird. They feel Bird's the most interesting out of the three. He's like a fish out of water type of character, and it's fun to see how he contrasts with Common X in the story. He's also the whom I'm most interested to see how the series goes on. For sure, Common X's strength. I really like this aspect of the character. I like how he contrasts with Bird's weakness. Yeah, and they mentioned this idea too. I'm okay, and I've seen animes. I think it's, what's this latest one? I think like Eminence in the Shadow or something like that, where it's like, you have like the MC that's like super, super powerful. I'm okay. It depends how they write it. You can have a character that's super, super strong, but you can write it in a way where it still works in there. Like One Punch Man, for an example.
Yeah.
You can write it convincingly. So I do like it, and I did mention this, and I do agree. Like Common X is like, if you're basically like a blader, you gain plus.
Yeah, basically.
It basically is that. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Oh, also for the Bird thing, I forgot to cover this, but I don't care that he loses. I care how they handle his losses. I want to make that clear. I think people are just focusing, and I disagree with this, right? If people are just upset that he loses, that's not our issue. It's how he loses and how they're kind of going through that. So he says, I'm going to say this as my mouth becomes the Sahara Desert. Unlike a good portion of the fan base, I don't really care about Bird's constant losses, mostly because it's obviously building up his arc. I would like to see where this arc is. I'm kidding. and his eventual victory. His first victory will be a huge moment of his character arc. My only problem is his constant losses affects how his anime only. Yeah, exactly this. And so it's talking about how since he keeps on losing, it's affecting the anime only because, like in episode 18, okay, we know Bird can't win, X can't lose, so every team battle is very predictable and it becomes boring. Agreed. Okay, and then after his first victory, like I said, it's going to be a huge, important moment for his character and obviously for the whole series. Just like Multi's loss, yeah, how they connect. I was saying like how like Multi's loss was relevant because that connects later on to the story. A word that I've seen Nizuma and a few others have is Bird's first victory is that if he defeats a really strong blade, his victory will feel unearned because if he's shown to be weak. But for me, if he wins against a random blader that is not strong, it'll feel anticlimactic. His first win needs, and this is out to you, buddy, his first win needs to be important, otherwise it'll be all this wait for nothing. So I can only see one of two ways. He will win, or we'll see him go up against people that defeated him before, like Maiden. Well, Maiden, I don't think that would matter if he did Maiden. I don't think these would matter. So like Chopin or Nozamos, he'll defeat each of them, or personally what I want to see happen, his first victory will be in a team battle, where one of his teammates lose and he has to carry. Okay. So before we go to the rest of this, because we have to read a lot, okay, what is your response to this idea that if Bird, let's say, gets that win before someone big, it's anticlimactic? I think my take on it is this idea, it's like, it's not really anticlimactic because it has to make sense, right? Because you have to, the build up, right? Because you're talking about the character-wise. Character-wise, it's like the enjoyment, that type, but the power level and the skill stuff, if he wins and you're not seeing his skills really like develop over that time, then it's gonna feel unearned, right?
Yeah, that's my issue, and I've talked about this a few times now. But yeah, does his win need to be important? Sure. Like what'll probably end up happening is Multi or Common X will lose, and he'll have to win. That'll be his big first win or whatever. But the problem is the further they go without him winning, the higher up the tower they go, the stronger the opponents are. And if all he does up until that point is lose, like the chances of him winning get harder and harder the higher up he goes without winning. And when we're not seeing progress, it's like, I've made this analogy before, but it's like if you're playing a ranked video game and you start at the very bottom and you're playing with a pro player and the pro player is carrying you, the higher he carries you up, like you're not going to just get better. You're not just going to all of a sudden start winning against players that are way better than you. It makes zero sense.
Yeah. Okay, their hope for season 1 onwards, Maiden backstory, and to see how she was a pro while she quit. Also more teams, how they handle UX. I don't know, anything you want to say on that?
No. I mean, most of the stuff I agree with. I feel like I agree with like most of the stuff so far.
I really enjoy how grounded everything feels story-wise. And so I think this is the best take on realism. That's basically what they're saying here. So for most of these, I don't want to put any offense to the commenters. I will probably try to summarize what they're saying. I'll try to read it. But it's just the idea, like, it's grounded, it's realism. Yeah, I agree. It's handled well. What I dislike about the anime and the manga, the inconsistent animation quality, it doesn't bother them too much, but... Oh, something I agree with too. I think this is really lame, and that's why also I really hate how OLM handles this. It's the avatar interaction. Why design them if they don't interact? Yeah,
that's a missed opportunity right there. Because like if they're all augmented reality, they could do the whole like them clashing or fighting during the battle or whatever. They probably just don't want to animate it, to be honest.
Probably just resource things, some shit like that. But I do think you should, because Burst had like these Yu-Gi-Oh like crazy ass designs and they never really used. Yeah. Honestly, literally everything about the story is great except Bird. So this is your alt account, Nizuma? Kidding.
I just, I'll be honest, like Bird's he's a very boring character. He started off strong. His concept is great. But Bird is a boring character. He doesn't do anything. I think
my issue with people is that they're kind of giving this interpretation of something that's not present in the context of the show.
Yeah.
And I think they're almost giving the writing more credit than there actually is, and I feel like that's my issue there. Oh, this is a long one. God damn. Oof. For the story, pretty much fine, but sometimes they forget that thing called climb the top thingy, and like now it's so wired with this phoenix. Sorry, buddy, you got too many typos. It sucks to suck. I'm going to the next comment. I'm not gaining like reading loss on that comment. I'm sorry. Maybe a little bit mean, but there's too many typos. You had your chance. Okay, well, I didn't get canceled by. This is much more grounded than the previous Beyblade seasons. No unreal, precise control of Beyblade, no supernatural. By the way, I don't think because MFB had this fantasy element or plastic genie, I don't think that's a negative. But I think what people are saying is just nice to see more realism. But I feel like you don't have to phrase it like, "Oh, it sucks they did this." It's not a negative. That's why Beyblade got carried.
Yeah, I like both. Like, I love Plastic Gen. I love the fantasy element. I think they did it really well. I think Metal Fight did some portions of that really well too. But it's cool to see a more grounded series. Burst sort of started to do it, sort of grounded in reality, and then it kept getting progressively more weird. But yeah, so far I do like that it's grounded. I think it's cool.
Oh, something they kind of make note. I didn't think about this, but yeah, the way they render the textures, by the way, for those Beyblades, it's like almost kind of these realism textures. I actually agree with this comment. I think it should be a lot more cel-shaded, how it should look.
Cel-shaded would look a lot cooler, I feel like.
I think it would make more sense blending it in. Next one is just the same thing on just the pacing or the manga chapters, whatever. Okay, is this a long one? Okay, good. A more grounded version of Beyblade. Of course, some parts aren't fully real, obviously, but there doesn't seem to be any resonance going on with Beyblade. So, like this idea of like, kind of like this weird thing that Burst kind of built on. Not that it's bad, just that aspect. And they say multi seems like an animator's favorite.
The resonance, like the Avatar stuff? Is that what we're talking about?
In Burst, it's like Blade or Spirit.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, guys. That whole idea is kind of tired. I feel like at this point, it's nice to me. So it's because that's been a thing. Hear me out. That's been the running thing for like 20 years. All right, since Plastic Gen, it's like the stronger my spirit is, the stronger my Beyblade gets. Like, it's okay to change it up. I like that they're like, oh,
yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm actually like my skill is what affects my outcome to win, not how much I scream or pull a Goku or whatever.
Yeah, Common X. Okay, so they're saying that Common X feels like a Mary Sue. Well, actually, it's actually Gary Stew. I believe that's the actual male version of that. Well, again, like I said on this, so okay, so let me go over the rest. So Bird's like the opposite of it. Bird loses so much. I just want to see my boy win. He seems like generally a great person. Yeah, obviously he wants to win. Well, okay, so they like the idea, like the journey of Bird, and he's like a third wheel, whatever. My only disagreement, I think you can have a strong character and it can work in the story. I think it's how they react to that, and I think that's the most interesting part. It's like when someone's strong, how does the world react to that person being strong? How do they infect the environment? And I think that's where it gets interesting.
He's not a Mary Sue or Gary Sue, whatever. He's because they already established that he's been through the tower. He's already been all the way through the tower. He's a pro. So that's why he's so strong against these weaker players. That doesn't make him a Mary Sue. That means he's already gone through this whole process that Multi and Bird have gone through. Yeah. So that writes off that whole stereotype right there. Just that.
I like Common X and Multi. Your outfit switching gimmick is really fun. Bird losing every single battle for what would be an entire season for some animes starts to get really frustrating. True. I hope it stops soon. He deserves to get a win no matter how small it is. Agreed. The pacing of the story 100%. Is a little bit slow. That's like what you said. I wish they progressed more on rather than having multiple episodes that feel like fillers. Yeah, I feel like the issue part of filler is that, yes, it's filler. I get it. I think they need to have it where there's something that's progressing, some elements of that. It kind of sucks. The bays in this generation seem super replaceable. Okay, so the main character is already heading towards their third bays and it hasn't been 20 episodes. Now, I do want to point this out technically because in Bakutin Shoot, I'm just saying they did technically at the rate this is, it's faster for the other teammates, but like I'm pretty sure like Taco had like is Dragoon Rip Attack or whatever, Dragoon S and like Dragoon F by like episode 20 or some shit.
Yeah, so well the pacing was like so in the manga, the first Beyblade he had was Spin Dragoon, and then he got Grip Attacker. Grip Attacker is the first Beyblade that we see Tyson use, or Takao use in Plastic Gen. That breaks episode 2, he gets Dragoon S, and then like halfway through season 1, he gets Dragoon F. So in the anime, really, it's technically 3, but Grip Attacker's destroyed like episode 2. So
wasn't like Dracil Metal Ball Defense, whatever, isn't that in the thing? Then after S, then F?
Yes.
I think they're all 3.
I don't. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They well, was Kai 3? I think he just had Dragoon or Dronzer S and Dronzer F.
I just need 3. I just need 3 from that team. So if it's 3 from that team, actually, no, I might.
Yeah, they did have it doesn't bother me actually. It really doesn't bother me at all.
I get the idea what they're trying to say. So some of the preference that it's like the main bay and it adapts over time and it evolves. I think this approach is fine for what it is. So I understand the preference. I think it's fine for what it is. The battles are also really quick. I haven't watched Burst, but the battles in Metal Series and OG Sins were much longer than True. I'm sorry, guys. I have to say this. I think OLM is the worst for Beyblade battles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah, they haven't at the top, like the best, like Iga versus Fi, like the team, like those are like obviously peak, but like for the average, they're kind of ass.
Well, I think I'll be honest. Like Plastic Gen and Metal Fight, I think had some of the best battles because most of them were not in a standard stadium. So like Plastic Gen was all diorama stadiums or it was outside. Same thing with Metal Fight. Is for the most part, a lot of stuff was happening outside. I mean, they had the tournament and stuff, but that was inside a stadium. But like,
you're right.
When you're using the same model of the same stadium for 51 episodes, 52 episodes, like, I'm not going to lie, they can get kind of boring. Like, especially, like, I feel like Burst is really guilty of that. Like, the battles, especially in, like, season 1, season 2, were boring.
You know what else it is? It's like in Metal Fight Team Plastic, you have like their abilities, so you can always find a creative way for how they can be used. More Metal Fights for like the tornadoes that they make and that shit.
Yeah.
I think my issue is like the creativity of the battles themselves. How do they utilize their base gimmick? How does Bird utilize Hell's Chain's gimmick? He doesn't multi. She does do the shock absorption. She changes you know what I mean? But you gotta get creative with it without the repetition. But,
I mean, they can make it interesting for sure. If they're like cutting back and forth from the characters, if they're explaining things, if they make the battles technical in terms of like skill and they're explaining that throughout, like that would be fine. But I do agree. I think some of the battles are fairly short.
Yeah. I like the story. I think it's a little more interesting than Burst's first season. That's a low bar, but well, move on from there. Sorry. Well, being more down to earth compared to the original or Metal Fusion, the pacing seems fine. I haven't read the manga yet. Well, read the
manga.
I'm not quite sure what the stakes are right now. Okay. I love multi. Oh yeah, by the way, that's another thing I want to actually compliment on X. I can't believe we didn't even say this. The fact that we got proper female representation after like 3 generations, like.
Oh yeah.
In Bakutin Shoot, there was female rep, and I would say well-written female characters, and most of them got Bay releases, but most of them were kind of locked in these random boosters or that type of stuff. Some of them didn't even get released.
Yeah, they were the ones that did get released weren't easy to get either. So
yeah,
very hyped on that. Like it's nice. Like right off the bat, we had like multis releases or whatever. So very cool that they're finally.
Like, I know I think it's a character called Quetzalcoatl. I think it was supposed to be a girl, but the editors made it a guy. So part of probably the issue in the past was probably these editors, like outdated, whatever. We didn't understand, it's cool to have female rep and release it on normal stuff. Burst, again, I think you have the case where all them Metal Fight's the weakest, I would say. But, like Burst has pretty good female characters that are in the show, but like they don't get actual releases. They get like random CG bays, whatever, and random combos. So yeah, that's something I wanted to compliment on. Like it's nice to see representation, so someone who's playing Beyblade can feel like included, not just feel like, oh, it's just a boys thing, whatever. It's like, wow, this is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Very smart of them to finally do.
So like multi, they like her gimmick. Common X like he's super strong. Bird, they think he's great. They understand he's an amateur. He's just growing. Well, they need to grow more riders in that room. Sorry.
Yeah, he's got to grow. We can keep calling him an amateur and saying he's growing, but he's not really doing much growth so far.
Oh, they're also upset how they're kind of setting up Bird for these matches, and he keeps on getting his ass beat. Yeah, I agree, because that's the issue with failure, because then after, if you keep setting him up, is the issue we just said.
Yeah.
I like Bird himself. I don't like his treated in the narrative. Like, show him at least battling a lower team. Okay, this is exactly what you said. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Not that, listen, I just want to read anything interesting. Story. How do you feel with the story right now? I think it has an interesting uniqueness of things being different from being how they were before. It has really creative plot points, like Burn making everyone adapt to high-speed bass. I like the more realistic take on Beyblade, because I don't think as seriously as crazy fantasy would be interesting. Agreed. Pacing. How do you feel with the story's pacing? I think the difference between the anime and the manga is one of the biggest problems for Beyblade X. For example, since we have the storyline that Bird is character made to lose fights at a certain point, we don't know what's going. Yeah, it's this idea like, because there's filler, because they're adapting the anime, they can't have Bird win before the manga, so they have to keep on waiting till the manga lets him get the win, so that's when it gets frustrating. Same counts for Exu, because we know wins as much as Bird loses, but when the results, yeah, okay. There's like this predictability. I will defend Common X because I feel it's fine. I think the issue should more be on multi. I don't think multi should be so much ease. I think multi should maybe... It should be like Bird struggles the most, multi's the middle, Common X the least.
Yeah, I agree. Like, multi I don't think has gone into any fight and been like, oh, crap, this is going to be tough. Yeah. You know what I mean? I
asked about the stakes. It's the same answer. That's why I don't like part of X. They don't know how to answer it. I don't blame them. They like the gimmick of multi and multiple bays, changing her outfit. They like how her friendship develops. I agree with this. It's cool to see a good female protagonist since Burst was lacking female rep. Well, you know, they did do Quad Strike, actually. Shout out to Quad Strike. How do you feel about Common X? I think it's funny and charismatic. I do like that Common X just commands an army of lemurs. That's just a superpower in the show. They literally build on it. Like, he just commands an army. I can't even hate on the show when they do that. I just smile when I watch that. Yeah, and I think the general idea here with Bird, I think it's repetitive how he loses. I agree with that. Because the predictability, I think the strength, yep. Okay, so this idea is interesting, that they want to maybe show why he's a pro. So maybe demonstrating more knowledge that he has. And I think that's maybe an interesting idea. Not just status, showing why you're at the top. You can argue that his enjoyment of it is why, but it would be interesting if Common X was maybe like, actually, hey, wait a minute. Well, I mean, there maybe were some moments in that. So I asked, what did they want Bird's first win to be? They wanted to have an impact to make it worth the wait. So I think the issue that we have here is because the anime and the manga have this thing where they already messed it up. So now it's like, if it's going to happen, I guess I can get the point of view. It should have impact. Right? Yeah,
I mean, at this point, like, if we're halfway through the first season, like, now they've, like, stuck themselves in a corner where, like, it better have some sort of impact. But I also, at the same time, don't want it to be at floor 80.
Yeah. What are your hopes as Season 1 progresses? I hope not to see any more Team Persona. But true! TT. Quit the burst formula. Next up. I want to see Bird win. I want to see Common X lose. It'd be interesting, actually, my idea. It'd be interesting if Common X loses in the final battle against, like, Chrome.
Yeah, that would be...
That'd be a big way to set up, like, the stakes.
Yeah, but, like, I don't want them to do the same thing the next season, though.
Oh. Well. True. I hope to see new teams with different themes, not just animals and magical creatures. I hope to see a level of realism in the battles stay consistent, and like Burst, yep. I hope the older base never get obsolete, and there's no power. Actually, something I like is even in Phoenix Wing, they acknowledge the weight's heavy and it's strong for that reason.
Yeah.
I feel it's been the strongest how they've been writing the actual gimmicks. I hope Maiden gets more moments to shine for Shark and Sharkage. I'm a Maiden fan. We are strong. We love anime maids. So I agree. I hope to understand why why did they give Bird a bird theme if it's based on demons? Tricawk will stay forgotten. It's because he picked the bait from Multi. Okay? Not every time their name has to translate to a literal meaning.
Well, you know what? I will say that I can understand sort of that, because like his whole theme, his hair is supposed to look like feathers. He's got a little bird insignia on his jacket. He had Strike Hawk as a Beyblade. Like, he's got all this bird theming going on, and like no, his name is Bird. Bring back Strike Hawk?
Listen,
I'm with you. Bring back Strike Hawk.
You want Strike Hawk? It's Hell's Hammer. I don't give a shit about Strike Hawk anymore. I'm sorry.
You're right. Yeah, Hammer is Strike Hawk 2.0, 100%. It looks like.
What do you enjoy about the anime and the manga? So the way that they make the balance realistic using the mechanics. Okay, yep. The fact that we got 3 protagonists with balanced focus. Debatable. Good female representation. True. Compelling characters. True. Storyline. Enjoyable for more broader. Yeah. I don't even think maybe Burst was a little bit more of a child audience, but I feel like Metal Fight, even Bakutin Shoot, like in V-Force, like people die.
Yeah, that's true. Like I feel like Burst probably was the most like childish.
Like in Metal Fight, Jinga battles Ryuga, part of that battle, he's making fun of his dead dad.
Yeah, and Bakutin Shoot, multiple characters die.
Yeah. I get that.
So yeah, I do feel like X though, like at least in terms of the manga, it definitely feels like something that could have been in like Shonen Jump or something. Oh yeah. Rather than Koro. It doesn't feel like something that's specifically targeted at like 10-year-olds.
Like the soundtrack, the art is cool in the manga, designs are good. What do you dislike? The way the fillers of the anime make the pacing worse. I agree. They're getting U-base too fast. I think contextually, because we talked about this, I think it's fine, but they do have to make it justified. I do agree with that. I don't think the anime this is what I said. I agree with this. They don't replicate the art style of the manga too well. It's not like the character designer is bad. I don't know. Is there
the art style for X is like very, very unique. I mean, I feel like it kind of runs into the same issue with Bakutin Shoot. Like the first season was pretty on model, but everything past that did not look like Aoki's work. So like Promised Neverland, for example, like really kept on par with like the character designs. I don't feel like X does a good job of replicating the art style.
I'm trying to think because it's not even like it's just for like animation wise. I don't know. I remember when they were doing actually that behind the scenes video when they're showing like the storyboard. You probably know it. Somebody can probably like find a picture of this, whatever. There's like one where the storyboard looks like Posuka's art style of Bird, and then it gets like morphed. I didn't like that. Okay, what else do we got? Repetitiveness of the anime. I'm not a fan of the story when it looks like the Bay makes the Blader better when sometimes they're showing the opposite. Yeah, that's what I said. It's kind of like you got to pick one. And I think it's like it's okay for now, but you can't they have it where the writing is good, and then they have like the bullshit Takara Tomy advertisement writing that's like Plague Burst and Metal Fight where it's like, "Oh, I'm new so I'm better." But even then I feel like I don't know. Fear the writers of filler episodes are not much in touch with their intentions of writing the manga. Isn't the category writers also assisting the animation?
I believe so.
Yeah. I don't think it's that. I think it's just the issue of trying to connect it overall. Because probably if they're doing the manga, they're like, okay, what shit do we got to add on the anime? I can imagine there's probably like a
Yeah,
small writing team or something, and I can understand probably why, you know.
I do think it might have been a mistake to try to keep them like mirrored with each other, because like none of the other series have done that, and they've been free to sort of like do whatever filler they wanted. Like the manga for I'm not sure about Burst because I haven't read it all, but for Metal Fight and Bakugan Shoot are very different from the anime.
Oh, very. It's
Yeah,
always
so
different. It's just how they try to adapt it. And I think the issue with kind of what you're talking about is like this idea. It's like when you're adding content, you have to think about how it's really contributing for the benefits of it. Okay, okay, we got a good one. I haven't been watching the anime. Well, you've been doing the right thing. Only I hope it's okay. They don't follow the exact format outlined in the format of the post. I think the world setting and the concepts behind the characters are very strong, but there is a real lack of character development. It's fine if Bird loses a lot, but it would be nice to see him internalize those challenges and strive for growth.
yeah,
Agreed?
yeah, I agree.
Because Bird loses, Common X always wins. It's hard to feel invested. This is exactly what I said. This is exactly like him. And this is a good point too. Techniques. I do want to see more interesting stuff. It can't just be extreme dash Flappy Bird. I think that's actually a Wyvern's Gale special move. I'm pretty sure. I think it is. I realize this is a very boomer take, but when you look back to 3 seasons, including V-Force, which is pretty bad, there's always something going on with the characters. They're changing, they're striving for something, they're in interpersonal conflicts. Ultimately, the Beyblade anime and the manga are meant as advertising for this is exactly the point. It's like, we all know this is a toy advertisement, but how compelling do they make that is what matters. Because before we get to the next comment, and we talked about this before, you know how important an anime adaptation is and why I personally think it's already too late for the X anime? Because anytime there's a good anime adaptation, like I got introduced to Freerun because it was trending on Twitter, and or Oshinoko because it was trending on Twitter, because people gave praise for such a well-done adaptation. When your adaptation is done well, it's universally praised. X is at best mid, at worst poor.
Yeah, I think kids will probably still like it, which is fine. I mean, it's good. I want it to do well, like even if I don't think it's particularly great. But the problem is that like we've had good Beyblade anime in the past. Like I get that it's a kids like advertisement anime, but they're capable of making good anime that's focused on a toy because it's happened before. So that's my issue. It's like I realize it's a toy commercial, but it could be a good one.
Even like dude, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like listen, this is not new. We know what it's for. It's just it depends how they do. Okay, I'm gonna see how many are left because listen, I gotta take a nap before the next episode. Listen, if anyone didn't get their comments in that I read, you can just comment it on the video and give your thoughts. Don't take any offense if I couldn't read everything. My mouth is dry. I am reading this and I am like turning to dust. So this will be the last one. Okay. Yosenki, love the vids. I thought I'd give my 2 cents share how I feel about the new Bay X series. Firstly, I don't have a general issue with the story or pacing so far. I like the idea of bringing a beloved hobby into the spotlight as an actual sport, while also highlighting the highs and lows of wanting to go pro. I very much agree with this. I think the one part, like I said, the story-wise and that adaptation, like the sports part and that part, I think very well written. I agree with this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good. I really like the concept. It's one of my favorite concepts so far. Like as much negativity as there has been in this like discourse, X is like one of the most enjoyable generations I've had in quite a while. Like I really enjoy X as a whole.
I love this generation.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
The manga jumps ahead. They're basically saying, well, there's time constraints and probably limited pages, so I can't critique too harshly, and that's fair. I think the issue, though, I don't know, because I don't know what I I don't know if they're told like last minute how many pages they have left and what's their time. Actually, I don't know. I think my only thing would maybe be the choices in how much you show. You got to consider that a lot more. Oh, also, I do like the paneling, by the way, in the X manga. I don't know if I mentioned that. I like how the characters are shown and kind of displayed. I feel like paneling is such like a thing that kind of gets sometimes ignored in a lot of mangas.
Yeah, I do really like the X manga. Like I wish it was they had more to work with in terms of page count, in terms of like how often maybe they could publish it.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the X manga is one of the best Beyblade manga that we've had, for sure.
Yeah, I think like the only times I really like Takafumi, for an example, I really love his art style and I really love his spacing for a lot of stuff and kind of, and I feel X is maybe the second best, and I think Burst, for an example, and you can talk about Bucket and Streets. Burst, I think, does a good example of showing the characters' personalities in their design. And I think that's their strongest aspect, and that's something I'll give credit to Hiro Morita for. Aside from the times he makes characters get kicked in the balls, that's a real thing. You can go search that. That was like a common thing. But you know, I think they each have a unique aspect to them. But like for Bakadenshu, what was an aspect that you enjoyed a lot? Was it mostly on the narrative side, or do you like a lot of the art? You know, what were your thoughts on that?
I really like the art style. There's some like the manga and the anime don't really line up at all. Like you said, there's some characters and some plot points that they hit, but the manga is very different from the anime. I like Daichi, for example, is introduced at a completely different time in the story. He has this whole backstory of like trying to meet up with Takao or Tyson or whatever. It's just very different as a whole. I really like the art for the manga, but I actually think the story for the anime is way better.
Sure. Okay. The anime adaptation thus far has been alright. I can feel like some issues with production quality, you know, repeated bay faces, or off model, some animation flaws, or rendering compositing. The animation industry is its own can of worms for why things end up that way. Yeah, obviously, there is a reason, and I did try to be fair, that's why I said this at the start. It's not like it's their fault. It's TT pushing this schedule that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
Lastly, as far as characters go, I enjoy the overall dynamic of the characters when they interact. I do have my grievances with them. I'm all for a novice player wanting to go pro, but I draw the line when it's all at the character's expense. This is exactly what I said, which it would be in Bird's case. Multi being a prodigy and influencer Baycrafter genius is a much of a big stack to one character. We don't really know what your true goal is as far as going pro outside of the latest chapter, so I stand corrected. Fair enough. And X2's already being at the top to redo everything because he was bored and wanted to battle his teammates is dumb. It's okay in the context, because if you realize Team Pendragon, they're both airheads. Like Shigeru and Common X are just airheads.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
I get
bother.
the idea.
I can understand maybe right now feeling bored with his character, because he's kind of in the same boat as Bird. He's very good. He hasn't had a huge challenge yet, but I mean, it makes sense in the context of where they're at in the tower. I'm hoping that his character. I don't expect his character to develop a ton for the rest of the.
I don't even think his character is developed at all. I think he's just been trying to find a challenge, and he's demonstrating his power. And that's not a bad thing, but I can understand if someone's like, okay, he's not really that interesting of a character. That's perfectly. That's fair enough.
Yeah, I think this season is definitely more focused on Bird, which is one of my frustrations because I haven't done much with him. But I don't expect a ton of character development for X for the rest of the season. I'm expecting maybe season 2 they do World Championship, and then things really start to, I don't know, pace themselves out in terms of the characters.
Yeah, because it's just in Japan. Oh,
yeah,
right. Okay. It would be one thing if they're mainly centered around Bird's point of view, where we're experiencing things through his journey of progression and his learning from his two amazing teammates, but the series is obviously trying to highlight all three. This is actually true, because if you do an interview, I think it's with the author in a podcast, they do mention that the protagonist is all three of them. And it's not inherently a bad thing, but when one character loses and is treated like a throwaway joke, it's not. I completely agree with this. The introduction of the side characters that interact with Bird, give him motivation and drive and actually build upon himself. And Bladers like, yeah, for an example, the fan, I do like Carlo, Marco, Polo. Obviously, X is trying to keep this whole thing of Bailey's fun energy going on when he feels battling. Okay. And I think Bird's not been treated well in the series as a whole. I wanted to see him grow and improve. And I think the issue you probably are seeing here is what they're saying. They don't want to see it be seen as some slapstick joke and losing Ryder being overshadowed by his teammates. The only gripe with the series so far is Bird does not need to be overly competent nor super powerful to progress. I agree. But I genuinely feel like the series would be more enjoyable if they didn't make such a likable character so infuriatingly. My dyslexia.
Infuriatingly.
No, I can do this. Infuriatingly. Good night, everybody.
You got it.
I'm just like, I might, at this point, I think I do have it because I can't, or it's a long week. I don't know. That's my disclaimer. I don't have it. But when I read these things I don't know, sometimes I fumbled like 5 times in this thing, so I'm already gonna get clipped. I get this idea, and I think it goes to what we said. It's this idea of progression that they really need to focus on for this latter half. Okay, so that's kind of, I think anything else is tiring it out at this point. So, okay, one thing I did want to add, and I want to throw this right at the end because I don't know if it's a hot take or not, or if this is going to be a little bit too spicy. I think, because I'm pretty sure the team that did Quad Strike is doing Beyblade X, I think Quad Strike should have actually never happened at all. It was nice that we got, listen, I love the story. I think the story is the best we've seen in Burst in years. I love Pax. I love Pri. The voice actor is amazing, tremendous work. I'm going to actually give my reasoning. One, I feel, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong in this, fair enough, but I feel like if Quad Strike wasn't done, they would have more time to have worked on X. Yeah, you're probably right. At the bare minimum, they would have maybe had more. I don't know, because it also goes to because you realize if Quad Strike was never done, you would have Beyblade X the same year as it was launched. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what people's reception of Quad Strike, whatever. Quad Strike is very positive for the story, but Quad Strike basically, every issue you have in X is like to a greater extent to what Quad Strike was facing, like off model, a lot of stuff didn't look right, They could have done an OVA. They could have done a movie, like, and told the same story. I feel like, did we need that season? Like, how much product did that season actually move? Not enough. Well, that's my Hasbro dick at the end. Okay, I'll give what I want to see for the future, then you go for it. Okay. Sure. What I want to see them build on with UX. Oh, did you see the... I forgot to tell you about this. Did you see the release info for the next few months? Yeah, I saw your video earlier today. Okay. So I was going to say, because it's interesting because you notice that UX is very rare. Yeah. So, and if it leads to October, it makes me think maybe other characters will see Multi's team have UX and then they go from there. So that'll be interesting to see where it goes. I want to see more teams and floor bosses. I want to see them I want to see Persona actually struggle. There has to be tension or stakes. It's got to really matter. It can't just be in the final battle. It only matters. Like even the Metal Saga, they change the order of who goes where. They do team battles. They got to spice it up. I agree. They should be showing more strategy, and they got to really build on it. It'd be interesting to see more when the characters are interacting and building on that bond. And aside from that, I think the manga is solid. Like maybe 7.5. Maybe by the end of it, maybe it hits that 8. Maybe maybe a little high. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh. The anime, I think it's got good principles. It's got good concepts. It's got good ideas and good story. But the execution is what drags it down. Like you saw the bird feather episode. If every episode was like that, and obviously there's a reason for why it's not like that, because obviously the time that it takes, maybe their staff wasn't available, whatever. But because of that reason, I cannot. If let's say the quality is consistent till the end, I can't say the anime is good. I feel story alone cannot carry a show. It's got to be over. How I view it, at least how I judge something, it's got to be overall.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Your predictions, your thoughts? We'll keep win at the end.
Yeah, the story just diverts to following Team Zaganic for the rest of the season. I think these new UX Beyblades, I think this is Bird's first win. I'm expecting Hammer to be his first win. I'm hoping it's relatively soon. Because the faster Bird wins, the faster the pacing can pick up for X. Because I feel like it's all building to that moment, for better or for worse. The faster that gets over with, then they can start focusing on other things. Bird got his win. Great. We've waited 20 episodes for it. Give him the stupid win so we can move forward. I want to see more teams. I want to see like more interaction outside of just battles. I want to see like teams interacting with each other. With each other. I want to see conflict outside of just battles. I just want more development in general. But the main thing is I really just want Bird to win so they can change the pacing. I'm really tired of watching Multi and X win every match and Bird fail every match. It's very rinse and repeat, and it's super repetitive. That's my biggest issue.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think we were pretty fair. Listen, I went through the notes. I even talked to Kyo just to proofread my arguments, whatever. Okay, I did the research. Nizuma looked at his Leon Claw, said, "Today is the day. We praise you." And listen, we did it. I will be back once it ends. So, October?
October, yeah.
Maybe October. Well,
dang, that's not that far. I don't feel like.
I think what we'll do, because it's gonna get really stupid if we're gonna go over all the way again to the start and finish. We're gonna continue where we left off. So, for an example, once it ends, we'll talk about 20 to 51, chapter 9, whatever, or chapter 10 to 15, whatever it is. Right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, right? Things can get better, things can get worse, and I think all of our arguments are pretty fair. All of our criticisms were pretty fair, And again, I have to say this because I saw Nizuma got shit on Twitter, and I told him that's Twitter, buddy. But you have to understand when we're talking about this stuff. Yeah, you can write 50 paragraphs of tweets. I'm not doing that. So a lot of times I've done this thing now where I just mute, and my life gets a lot better. I don't need the SAS, whatever. We gave our opinion. If you agree, you disagree, that's for the comment section. I urge all of you you can watch this in, I don't even know how long we're going for. Sheesh! Where do we start? God damn. Oh my God. Okay, well, you can listen to this in one half, then the second half, then come back and tell us your thoughts. And speaking of which, my headphones are choking my ears, so that is the sign for Nizuma to plug his shit.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me again, Zankye. If you guys want to, feel free to check out my channel. Linked down below. I make Beyblade X content, Plastic Gen content, Metal Fight occasionally, and Burst if I'm feeling I don't know, I'm bored. Yeah, come check the channel out. We also have Mac shirts. My cat, who you guys saw at some point in the video. Feel free to get one of those.
Nizuma has the manga reviews to check out. He did the video on the bold video on criticizing Bird. I did not want the smoke on that. That's why I waited for this, because we know how Beyblade fans get. And he has a video on why Zaganic is better than Team Persona in Beyblade, and why Team Persona should quit.
I got a whole playlist of Leon Claw videos too.
No way.
I do.
Oh my God. Making Leon Claw good. How would you feel if they did Leon Fang or King gets the upgrade
for UX?
Yeah,
I'd be super hyped. I hope he gets an upgrade or a variant or whatever that rebalances it a little bit, makes it a little better. Because Leon Claw, let's be honest, is like not very good.
Listen, the gold one adds almost 2 grams of weight, improved performance.
But I just really like the design, and I like Zuganic. So please give me a King Beyblade that's good.
So you'll probably see us next week. Actually, yeah, next week I have a break, so I can finally live. So you will probably see us discuss the listing stuff, and we'll probably do a recap because as of the time of this recording on this Thursday night, they did update pictures of this Japan showcase, actually showing more of the side profile images and all that stuff of the UX space. So we'll probably give our takes there or something. And yeah, that is it for now. I hope people know we did this in good faith. We did our best, and don't kill us over our opinions. Especially that earlier comment, Nizuma. You might get canceled for that one.
Yeah. Nah, bro, it'll be all right.
Listen, guys, Twitter, you know what to do. The twit longers. It's time. Time we stop Leon Claw. All right, that's it. That's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed me failing at talking many times. And that's it for now. Take care and bye.